Weed or sex that ties you together. Love hard, baby.
I don't want no mistakes, Lola. I couldn't bear to see something bad happen to my girls. My family's owned this farm for 5 generations.
Sweet corn and cannabis.
You do realize that that's the best weed in the United States of America. You pack me a freshman, darling? Remember, pack it tight.
Well, you got 5 dead kids on the street with a new drug. You got any suggestions?
Oh, I would do cover.
This is not going to be the same stuff.
The bust.
I got it from this guy named Breezy.
Let's see.
Young and these girls, they just roll up into town.
Something dirty's going on here.
I want this case. I can infiltrate the family and I'll take them all down. I'm making this case for us. Hey, off her!
I want to help you, okay? I want to make sure he never hurt you or find you.
Rising time, girlie.
I'm not joking. You're farmers. How we're family.
You be part of that family for life.
Hear that? One is girls. People really love you. They want to hurt you.
It doesn't make sense. This family isn't who we thought they were. Don't come in.
Come on, AJ, you're a federal agent for Christ's sakes.
Fool us all. This is grass now.
I don't know about my fellow peace pipers, but I'm starting to sweat.
This is all. Somebody wants to take it from me. You don't have a file on your hand. Take your federal ass, get the fuck off my property.
You going down, baby?
Chapter 5.
Between the farm and my family. It's my family. That boy's gonna get a heart attack. Let's make this place.
Now that's the good stuff.
Testing. Whoever cut that trailer was mentally ill. All right. Good morning, horror fans. Welcome to the 2019 Days of the Dead Horror Convention here in Atlanta. More importantly, welcome to the panel for the new Sid Haig film, High in the Hog. All right. Everybody sober this morning? Close enough. My name is B.A. Lewandowski. I'm the editor of this film, and I'll be your moderator today. On behalf of everyone on the High in the Hog team, we appreciate you coming out today. You can see from the trailer, this movie is fucking crazy. I can swear, right? Well, I got the microphone. I guess I can do whatever I want. This is a retro grindhouse crime drama. Sid will get more into that in a little bit. It's obviously a movie about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But it's so much more than that. Besides my panel guests here today, the film also stars Joe Estevez and the late Bobby Zadar. We'll get into some more details about the film's release, which is very, very soon. More on that later. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. So without further ado, let's introduce our panel. First, you may know her from such films as Space Babies from Outer Space, Harvest Lake, Amazon Hotbox, which is made right here in the Atlanta area. My new film, Skeletons in the Closet. She plays DJ Mary Jane in High in the Hog, the very beautiful and very talented scream queen, Mrs. Ellie Church. Next. This man needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway so I can hear myself talk a little longer. Sid starring in The Host in 1960 for director Jack Hill. He's appeared in over 50 films and 350 pieces of television. That's 7 decades, folks. Most of you know him as Captain Spaulding. Some of you older fans will remember him as Omar in Coffee. But soon, all of you will love him as Big Daddy in High in the Hog. Ladies and gentlemen, he's an outlaw, an icon, and a great human being. The one and only, Mr. Sid Haig.
You? What the hell are you guys all doing here? You having a good time? Oh, yeah. All right, good.
All right.
Jesus, fall on the chair.
Well, Sid, we're finally here.
It's a fucking horse again. Okay.
So first off, Sid, I really want to thank you for doing this movie. Without your involvement, we wouldn't be here, obviously. I wouldn't have the pleasure of having a Sid Haig movie on my resume. I can't tell you how much that means to me. Do you want to explain to the audience exactly what High in the Hog is? You want to give an introduction?
Do I want to explain what?
You want to explain the plot of High in the Hog to the audience?
Oh yeah, well, I play a farmer. The farm I got from the trailer has been in the family for 5 generations. I promised my father, before he died, that I wouldn't sell out to corporate farmers and just keep the farm going. Easier said than done. Everybody knows anything about farming. But we have this hog farm, and we're growing the corn, feed the hogs, and things got a little tough, so I just decided to plant a little weed in with the corn. And along the way, I ran into these 3 women at various stages who had been terribly abused in one way or another, and I took them in as family. So we were operating like a family, and raising corn, raising hogs, raising weed. And the girls would go out of town and sell the weed and just keep the whole operation going until the fucking DEA showed up. And then everything turned to shit. There you go. I just gave you all the spoilers.
So here's a question. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this, or if we have, I don't remember it. How did this film exactly come to your attention? How did this land on your desk?
How did it come to my attention?
Yeah.
Kevin Lockhart, who was the writer and producer of the film, sent the script to my manager, and I read it, and I said, oh yeah, I could have a lot of fun doing this. See, I don't do anything that's not fun. I'm too old to, be jacking around, all right? It's not fun, I'm not going to do it. So I figured I could have a lot of fun doing it, and so I signed up. And that was, that's basically the way I operate.
So you could have done any number of projects at that time. What motivated you to take a chance on this upstart group of young filmmakers all the way in the middle of nowhere in Galena and Elizabeth, Illinois? Was it the script? Was it the character? Was it the subject matter? What attracted you most to them?
It was all of that stuff combined. I like the subject matter. I like the idea of family. I like the idea of demonizing weed. Okay. See, the whole way that marijuana, if you will, became this terrible thing was because of William Randolph Hearst, okay, who was a big rag seller, all right? He had his newspapers and all that stuff, and he bought thousands of acres of forest land to provide paper for his newspapers. And then he found out that an acre of hemp could produce more paper than 100 acres of forest, and pissed him off. And so he started this campaign against hemp, which of course we all know contains THC, gets you high, but it also contains CBD, which makes the rest of your body work right. So he, started this campaign against it, which evolved into Reefer Madness, okay, and all the other films that demonized weed. And So that, you know, that's where that whole thing comes from. So that interested me in terms of just making people aware that not everybody that smokes weed goes crazy and starts doing weird shit, you know? And that was something that was attractive. I like that idea. And the whole idea of family, particularly on one level, on a spiritual level, yes, you pick your family, but on another level, if you come together with people and you act like family together, that's like really important too. So that part of it is also intriguing.
Ellie, here's a question for you. So Ellie came into this movie pretty late in the game in post. When we redesigned the film, I approached Kevin and Tony about adding a tertiary character based on Lynn Thigpen from the 1979 Walter Hill film, The Warriors. We wanted a DJ. She basically explained some of the more subtle plot points of the movie. So when we hired Ellie, you came from Indiana, right, that morning? Yeah. She had never met us before. We hadn't even built your set yet. Remember we put it together that morning? If I remember correctly, we were nervous as all hell. So my original idea was to just shoot. We'll shoot you just like they did The Warriors. It was basically like this. And Ellie, very, very quickly, you owned that role, and we're like, all right, fuck it, we're just going to start doing close-ups and whatnot. So I'll give you a lot of credit, because I was probably uncomfortable because you'd never met us before, but you came into that role, and you owned that character, like, in an hour. It's pretty impressive. And I think we did all of that. We did all of your shooting, like, in an afternoon, right?
Yeah, it was one day. There was all the dancing stuff and the voiceover stuff, but the DJ stuff was, I think it was only a couple of hours.
Yeah, you ran through that quickly. And that was a lot. It was, what'd you have, like, I think it was at least 6, 7 scenes, something like that?
At least, yeah.
Is that one of your favorite roles?
Yeah, anything I get to use an accent in, especially a southern accent, is probably going to be my favorite. Yeah. But just to be like a southern stoner radio DJ, completely different. I've never done anything like that before, so I was super excited before I did it, and I loved doing it.
Were you completely sober during the shooting of that movie?
I was surprised because I didn't know anything about any of this. I don't understand myself.
So you didn't know it's a poster, right?
And then I start seeing pictures of this beautiful girl talking on a microphone, smoking whatever she was smoking. And I went, wow, okay, this is cool.
Sid, you wear several hats on this film. Not only are you the star of the movie, obviously, but you were a producer on the film. In fact, if it wasn't for your involvement, this film may not have been completed. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first film where your name is featured over the title?
Yes, it is.
What was it like producing this film?
Huh?
What was it like producing this film?
Well, the way this whole thing started was, after over 50 years in the business, you get to know what to expect when you step on the set for the first time. And when I stepped on the set, I saw a bunch of young, energetic, enthusiastic people, really anxious to get this thing going and rocking, and wanting to make a good movie. And one thing that was missing was that not a whole lot of them knew what it was, or what their job was. Okay? So I went to Kevin Marquardt, the executive producer, and I said, you know, Kevin, I think you need to get a producer in here with some organizational skills that can teach these people what to do, because they really want to do a good job for you. Without hesitation, he said, will you do it? I said, well, you got my agent's number. And the next day I was a producer on the show. And with my first AD, Ace, I don't even know what Ace's real name is.
It's a good question. I don't either. Ace Cabral. Yeah, what is this? Maybe
we held a 3.5-hour production meeting with all the department heads and got everybody pointed in the right direction. And there was a lot of head nodding going on, agreeing with, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And the next day it was like we hired a whole new crew. Everybody was working full steam ahead. Everything was getting prepped properly. And you can see that's the thing when you've got the desire to do something, you just need a little education to push it forward and rock with it, you know. Albert Einstein was once asked what his assessment of genius was. And he said, imagination, visualization, intuition, and desire. And that's what they had. They had the vision of what it was that they wanted to accomplish, and they could imagine it being done. Maybe they weren't using their intuition a lot, okay, but they had the desire. And when you start filling in the spaces for people, it brings everything together, and everybody comes alive and really rocks it, you know. And we had a solid sound crew and a solid film crew. It was just the other areas that were a little shaky, and we just straightened that all out, and everybody rocked it.
This is a real personal movie for you. Not only was your assistance tantamount in getting the movie made, but in the edit, we actually used some of your childhood pics in some of the flashbacks. The ones that your childhood pictures. Remember the ones that you sent to Kevin?
Pull your microwave.
Remember the childhood pics that you sent to Kevin?
Yeah.
Childhood pics. Pictures. The black and white pictures.
Oh,
remember those?
My family.
Yes.
Yes. I actually was able to supply photographs of my family from 5 generations back with a covered wagon. Yeah, because my grandfather, I don't know if this is important or not, but my grandfather came to this country when he was 15 years old. That means that he was 2 years into his adulthood, because in my culture, when you're 13 years old, you're a man. You're expected to do manly things. Get married, have a family, have a good source of income, build from there. And so he was 2 years into it. He decided to come to this place called America, where he heard that if you were willing to work hard, you could have anything you wanted. And so he bought into that. He came here. The very first thing he did when he got off the ship in Boston was to find a tattoo parlor and had an American flag tattooed on his forearm. Took almost all the money that he had, but that was important to him. He said, this is my new home. And I got a job in a shoe factory, worked 7 days a week for 5 years, and then sent for his wife and his first daughter. They came, he bought a covered wagon, 2 horses, and by himself, no wagon train, by himself, took that wagon across country from Boston to California, stopped at one point in Central California, and he got off the wagon and felt the soil and smelt it, and he said, this is it, okay, this is where we have to be. So he took all the money that he had, bought land for 50 cents an acre. We're talking, he came here 10 years after the Civil War. And he gathered up some wood and built a little shack under one of 2 of the fruiting mulberry trees that were on the property. My grandmother climbed up into the trees, gathered her cocoons. She had a small loom. She wove the silk, made the fabric, went up into the hills, gathered wildflowers, made the dye, dyed the fabric, took it into town and sold it, and that's how they got their first crop in the ground. He wound up with 750 acres of table grapes. And he did it legally. I was waiting for that.
I was waiting for that.
I don't know what that means, but it just came to my head, and I opened my mouth, and shit falls out.
Sid, you got any? What was your fondest memory of making High in the Hog? You got any really funny backstory for us?
I'm making on the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to let you. I've got a couple I want to ask. I want to let you come to that determination.
Sometimes when you're doing independent films, like low budget, ultra low budget, you don't have all the amenities that you do when you're working for 20th Century Fox, okay? And there was one point where the ladies were complaining that they didn't have a proper place to change clothes. While I was standing out in the middle of the road in my tidy whities changing my fucking costume. And Tony Walsh said, "Get over it, look at this guy." He said, out in the middle of public changing his clothes. You're worried about having a dressing room? Shut up, get dressed.
That's what he said. Ellie, what about you? It was a ridiculous day, I know that.
Yeah, it's just a stupid little tidbit, but it was really funny. When we were on set, I was doing some dancing bits, you know, and they had me bring my own music in, and you know, so I was comfortable. But Tony brought me this red, white, and blue tutu, and I looked at it, and right away I was like, my eyes can't fit in this tutu. There is no way I can get in this tiny thing. And I told him, I was like, dude, this isn't gonna fit. He's like, just try and we'll look at it and see. And I put it on and I just like hulked it out. And I came out and it was all stretched out and, you know, it looked awful anyway, but like, I was like, dude, and he goes, go back to the dressing room. But yeah, no, it was a really fun shoot. Like you said, it was only about a day, but I love you guys, and Tony's really awesome to work for. I just like working for Tony too, because I feel like he knows what he wants and he pushes me.
Tony Walsh is the director, by the way, everybody. He's at work right now, so he couldn't be here.
You got an adult job.
Yeah, you got an adult job. So here's a question. Another question for you, Sid. I think you and I were talking about this yesterday. Interesting enough, this is the second film where you play a character named Daddy. You made a film in 1967 called It's a Bikini World, which I believe is the only film in the beach party genre to be directed by a woman. I think her name was Stephanie Rothman. Anyway, your character in that movie's name was Daddy. Obviously, in High in the Hog, your name is Big Daddy. So here's a question. Between 67 and present day, what's the biggest change in the movie business that you've noticed?
The biggest change that I noticed was that anybody with a credit card can make a movie. They don't know how to make a movie, but they can make one. And they do. They're usually terrible. They don't have any money to pay you. And they work the shit out of you. And, you know, that's the way things have gone. The technology has gotten so extreme that, you know, everything is CGI. I'm not, a CGI bloodhead, bullet head, just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right at all. And then when you get that on Blu-ray, then it really looks bad. So, you know, there's that aspect of it. The other thing is the whole casting system has changed so dramatically. You used to have to go in and audition for the producer and the director. And if it was a television show, the representative from the network. And now people are being hired by the media numbers, okay? That's why there's so many television shows that only last like 4 to 6 episodes, because they're so fucked up that People can't act, okay? They just don't know how to do it. And so, you know, the idea of because somebody's got 150,000 followers, that means that there's going to be 150,000 butts in the seat. Not really. And once they go to see the film and it tanks, then it's all over. So what I'd like to see is getting back to the old style, where you actually went in face to face with the director and showed him what you got. But that ain't happening.
No. Haig the Hog, by the way, has all practical effects. No CGI bullet hits in our movie. Sid, you and I were talking yesterday that you've actually got 3 new movies coming out. Well, 4 technically.
4 actually, yeah. I got one in release right now. It's #1 on VOD. It's called Cynthia. And it's about this husband and wife who desperately want a child. They're taking all kinds of drugs and shit. It's costing $10,000 a month or whatever. And they have twins. Only one of the twins dies. Not really. And the other twin is this little monster that runs around and killing everybody. And it's really it's kind of wild. And it deserves to be #1 on VOD. And for the first time in 57 years, I play a cop.
That's unreal. I'm still surprised by that.
Not to toot my own horn, but bang! I won the Best Supporting Actor at the IFC, IFS Film Festival for the portrayal of Detective Edwards.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear it.
I should have started out when I was 57 years ago saying, "Excuse me, sir, I'll play the cop."
Do you prefer the role of hero or villain, or both?
I like to do different stuff. I did a film called Dead Calling, where I played a straight-up Norman Rockwell dad. Okay, buttering my kids' toast, talking at the breakfast table, and that whole thing. And that was exciting for me because I just got tired of pointing guns in people's face, and that's why I backed away from the industry. As a matter of fact, in '92, I said, you know what? These guys can't figure out that I can do more than just point a gun in somebody's face, then I'm just going to take a little rest until somebody can put a couple of synapses together and figure out that I can do more.
What was your comeback film after What was your comeback film after your retirement? When you retired, well, you didn't really retire.
Well, semi-retired.
Semi-retired.
Yeah, if a role came along that I felt like I wanted to do, then of course I would. But Quentin Tarantino showed up with Kill Bill. Rob Zombie showed up with House of a Thousand Corpses. I don't know if you've ever heard of that film. and everything just got better.
What would you say? Do you think that? What do you think the reaction? I mean, people obviously haven't seen the film yet, but when they do, what do you think the general public's reaction is going to be, especially your most ardent fans?
What do I think the public's reaction to what?
To Haig. Do you think they're going to really enjoy Haig?
I think I think everybody's going to like it because it's got some humor in it. It's got some action in it. It'll make you laugh. It'll piss you off. It's got a whole lot of elements to it that I think people will go for.
Ellie, here's a question for you. A critic actually posed this to us on a podcast recently. Do you think that Haig and the Hog is a feminist movie? And I ask that because there's so many strong female characters.
Right. It's about a family of women helping women, and I think just people helping people in general. But I mean, any good relationship between women can be, I guess, seen as feminist because women aren't always so great to each other. So just to see women loving each other is an awesome thing.
Absolutely. Does anyone out there in the audience know what the Bechdel test is? Yes? Okay, yeah. High in the Hog passes the Bechdel test. Does everyone know? Okay. Should I explain that really quickly? In a movie, very rarely will you see two women having a conversation that's about anything other than men. You don't see it that often, and that's what that test is. And High in the Hog actually passes it, so that's why I actually consider this a feminist movie. We'll see what happens when it's released. But it's definitely a political film. It's definitely an overtly political film. In fact, there's a sequence that, in my opinion, Sid basically wrote himself on the spot. He ad-libbed it. I think we're going to show that when we're all done. And that's the scene when he goes toe-to-toe with Detective Mo Dick, who's played by Martin Sheen's brother, Joe Estevez. So, yeah, that's a real name. Did not make that up. So, Sid, tell me about that sequence. You basically ad-libbed that, and you were clearly trying to make a very distinct political point, which was marijuana prohibition should end, legalization should begin. How do you feel about the progress in your state of California in terms of marijuana legalization, and what direction that's headed to?
Well, people are going to do what the fuck they're going to do, okay? And I would much rather have somebody just sitting around relaxing, maybe taking a couple of hits of a joint, than having somebody sit in the bar for 4 hours and drink a pint of booze and go out and kill somebody in their car. Okay, there's two kinds of things. Cop pulls this guy over because he's driving too fast, he's driving crazy, and he goes up to the window and the guy rolls down the window and the smell of the booze just almost knocks the cop over. And he says, "Sir, do you know how fast you were going?" And he goes, 40? He says, "No, 65. You're going 65 miles an hour. Get the hell out of this car." Boom, and he takes him to jail. Next day, the cop is out on patrol and he sees a car that's doing something against the rules, pulls him over, guy rolls down the window and the smoke comes piling out of the car. Okay, and he says, "Sir, do you know how fast you were going?" And he goes, "Wow, 40? He goes, "No, 4. 4 miles an hour." Take it from there. and that scene with Joe Estevez is politically where I stand. Just because you own a badge, okay, and you abuse your authority by going in and pushing people around, that just doesn't work for me. So I threw his ass off the farm, and that was it.
Joe's he's a perfect asshole in that movie. Yeah, and you're a badass. One of the things I like about Haig is it's multi-genre. It's an action movie, it's a grindhouse movie, it's a family drama. I attempted to build it so it feels kind of like not only a Western, but almost an epic, especially with all the family background we do. Do you feel the same way in terms of the subtext of the movie? I mean, do you feel like it's a family drama?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got value in the fact that it brings home the family values: women taking care of women, the man taking care of the women. I have a little romantic interlude there.
I certainly do.
Yes, I certainly do. That's damn hot.
What was her name? Sierra.
Huh?
Sierra was her
Sierra.
name. She was good.
Mom.
She's in LA too, by the way. We screened the movie there.
Huh?
She's in LA. She's in your backyard almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got lucky. We had a great cast. It really did. I mean, like I said, Joe's in it. The late Bobby Zadar, who played Maniac Cop. Jesse C. Boyd, who's in Mindhunter. Obviously, Ellie Church. Fiona, Brenda. Yeah, we got lucky. There's a great cast. And of course, you.
I'm just there doing my job. That's what I do.
I think what we can do now, especially if people have some questions, is do a Q&A. I don't have another microphone, so you may just want to stand, ask a question. Does anybody have a question for my two guests? Yes, sir.
What was it like working with Rob Zombie the very first time? Like meeting Rob Zombie first day and working with him?
Very chilled guy, easygoing. He's a fast learner. Okay, he knew what he wanted to announce 1,000 Corpses. He just didn't have movie speak. Okay, but he made his vision clear in whatever way he could, and got the job done. I'm sure you can agree that he got the job done. But by the time we got to Devil's Rejects, he learned all the stuff, how to communicate with the crew in terms that they would understand, speed things up and get things rolling. Very easy to work with, no problem, having a lot of fun. And does what most directors should do. If you have enough confidence to hire somebody to do their job, then let them do their job, okay? There's so many directors that are puppet masters, you know. I had a director that was so controlling, it was ridiculous. It said, look to your left, and now put your head down a little bit, and now, you know, make a gesture with your right hand, and then stop, cut. God damn it, I'm not a puppet, okay? So put your Geppetto shit away. Maybe that's why I'm not any farther than I am in this business. I don't put up with shit. I had a director one time, before we even rehearsed the scene, I said, do you mind if I give you a line reading on this? You don't do that to actors, okay? See what they're bringing you, and then if it's not what you want, then you work it out, okay? He said, do you mind if I give you a line reading on this? I said, no, not at all. As long as you understand those will be the last fucking words you ever speak. I'll get your ass in back of the monitor and do your job, not do mine. He looked at me puzzled. I said, get the fuck out of here. And that was that.
What's the most fun you've had on a movie set?
Huh?
What's the most fun you've had on a movie set? What movie was the most fun to make?
The most fun I had in Rejects?
No, on a movie in general. Any movie.
Any movie. Oh my God.
I bet Galaxy of Terror was fucking fun.
Galaxy of Terror was crazy, yeah. See, okay, I have this working relationship with Roger Corman. He sends me a script and a contract. If I like the script, I sign the contract, deal's done. If I don't like the script, just don't sign the contract, no hard feelings, everything's cool. So he sends me the script for Galaxy of Terror, and I looked at it, and the script in general I thought was, you know, pretty solid. So I called him. I said, yeah, Roger, I like elements of the script, and I will do it as long as you let me do it mute. He goes, mute? Why do you want to do it mute? I said, have you read that shit? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. You can do it mute. That's all right. But the director forced me to say that stupid-ass line, I live and I die by the guy's things. Stupid. But there's two rules when dealing with directors. Rule number one is the director is always right. Number two is, if the director is always wrong, refer to rule number one. So I did what he wanted me to do, damn it.
After all these years, who's your, what director do you think you learned from the most?
What was that?
What director do you think that you learned from the most? Because you have worked with a shitload of them.
Wow. Well, I learned how to work with guys like Rob Zombie and Quentin Tarantino and Jack Hill in terms of how far I could stretch myself. Okay? I got to know when to pull back and shut the fuck up and say the words. And you know, that taught me a lot about myself. When I was in school, I went to the Pasadena Playhouse, which is like the number 4 school in the world. I learned a lot about how to develop character and you know, what you have to bring with you. And I was fortunate enough to work with a guy named Barney Brown, who along with Lee Strasberg started the Actors Studio in New York. Strasberg stayed in New York. Brown came to the West Coast and became the director of the Pasadena Playhouse. Very impressive alumni: Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, Charles Bronson, on and on and on. So that's where I really learned the most about what my job was and how to make it work.
Ellie, I got a quick question for you. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Do you have formal training as an actress? Or did you just you and Brian just kind of jump into it?
Unfortunately, my acting school is all on film. So I started 2011, I believe. Just kind of.
Was Time to Kill your first movie?
No, I did a couple before that. But Time to Kill was my first movie that I feel like.
For feature? Or did you have a feature before that?
I had a feature before that. But Time to Kill was the first movie where I felt like I was really learning something and not just like, woo, this is fun. It was, I wanted it to be very good, and I wanted a different thing out of that movie than I wanted out of the ones before that. So it was a turning point for me.
Yeah, your growth rate between, especially Time to Kill and Skeleton August is pretty incredible. What do you got next besides, you got a movie called Johnny Z coming up, right?
Right, I went there and filmed for that in April. I think that's coming out this year. I haven't really heard any updates, but I know it was going to take about 12 months to get it all figured out.
I saw Batman when I was at Nightmares in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're terrific in that. Everybody's terrific in that.
Yeah, I have that come out this year, and then Amazon Hotbox.
Amazon Hotbox is terrific too.
Also. And then,
you got a busy year coming up too.
What's that?
You got a busy year coming up.
Yeah. We're working on something right now. So.
Excellent. Sorry, I segued. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering what it was like to work on Death House, like working with Bill again, getting to work with Kate Hodder. Did you have a good time?
Well, have you seen Death House?
No, I really want to. I haven't.
Okay. It's kind of segmented, so we really never worked together, okay? But everybody that did that film did it because of their love for the project that was created by someone who we all respected and everything. And so, you see the film, it looks kind of segmented. There's little scenes about this and little scenes about that. They're not necessarily connected, but everybody delivers. I've seen it, and everybody delivers really good performance. So hopefully it gets legs. I think it needs a little direction in terms of how to market it. because it's been out way too long. Hardly anybody's seen it. So hopefully they can get their shit together and get people interested in seeing this thing.
Yes, ma'am.
This is for both of you. What made you want to become an actor? What started you to want to do that? What made you decide to work as an actor?
Okay, I started very, very early. Okay, when I was growing up, I was growing so fast that I was clumsy. I could trip over and die. And so my parents decided that I needed dance classes. So yeah, sure. So we go to dance class, and I took to it. I loved it so much. It was so much fun. By the time I was 7, I was getting paid to dance. And I kept that up until I was about 12 years old. And I was always involved with music when I was like 9 years old, 10 years old. My parents got tired of me banging up all the pots and pans. So they went out and bought a used drum set for me. And I taught myself how to play drums and played in Dixieland jazz, country western, and then this weird thing called rock and roll came around. Okay? And got involved in that and started a band called the T-Birds. You can probably find this online. And we recorded a song for Keaton Records, which was the label that Sam Cooke was on. And everybody's looking at me like, who the fuck's Sam Cooke? Big time guy, okay. And a year out of high school, signed a contract with that record company, and it was a period of time when Paola was running everything, and they were paying all this money out to disc jockeys to play songs. And I was in the office one day, and they wrote out a check for $750 to have Dick Clark play our song one time on American Bandstand. Okay, that's the kind of money that was getting thrown out. Well, everything is charged against production, so you don't get paid until the production is paid off. Well, I wasn't making any money, and at the age of 19, I was smart enough to know that this was a bad road to go down, so I just bailed. And a friend of mine and I were standing out in front of my parents' place, figuring out what we were going to do with our miserable lives. He said, you know, you ought to go to the Pasadena Playhouse. I said, what's that? He goes, it's a theater arts college. I went, oh, really? So I sent away for the information, filled out the application form, got my 3 letters of recommendation, and away I went to acting school. And the first day, we had orientation, and the dean of the college said, okay, there's 3 things that you need to become successful as an actor. First, you need wealthy parents. Well, I'm screwed. Because my parents were definitely not wealthy. But it's true. You need pictures, you need clothes, you need a car to get you back and forth, and this and that and everything else. So yeah, okay, I get that, I understand it. He said, number 2, you have to be tenacious. I said, aha. I am a stubborn son of a bitch. If I put my eye on something and I want it, I'm gonna go get it, okay? So, all right, I'm good. And then he said, the 3rd thing is, if you happen to have a little talent, it'll help. And so I said, well, I think I got talent. So I'm 2 out of 3, not bad, let's go for it. And we started with a class of 150. Everybody was always on probation. Okay. At the end of 6 weeks, you had to perform 2 minutes comedy, 2 minutes drama, and 2 minutes of classic. And based on that, you were either invited to stay or you may pack your bags and go home. And yet it was always that way. At the end of each semester, you either got a little invitation in your mailbox to stay for another semester, or if you didn't get the invitation, you just packed your shit and went home. So from 150, 2 years later, we graduated 32, and of the 32, 2 of us became working actors. Me and Stuart Margol, the guy who played Angel on the Rockford Files, remember him? Okay. He and I were the only 2 out of 150. So that's, and they were always tough, always tough. They followed me even after I graduated. I don't know how the hell she got my number, but my ballet teacher, because we had ballet, modern dance, and Elizabethan dance classes every day. So she calls and said, my dear friend Dorothy Arzner, who was the first A female director in Hollywood, and at this point she was the head of the film department at UCLA. She said one of her students is doing his thesis film, and he can't find somebody to play the lead that he feels good about. Do you have any suggestions? She said, yes, I do. I'll call him, I'll send him over. His name's Sid Haig. She called me, I don't know how the hell she got my phone number, and said, okay, you go take your ass to UCLA right now, go find Dorothy Arzner in the film department, and you better get the job. Then they had their foot up your ass even after you graduated. So that's how that whole thing started. I did Jack Hill's student thesis film.
That was The Host.
The Host, which later Quentin Tarantino saw a piece of and fell in love with it and found all the unedited footage, got it all together, bought it all up, and made Miramax make it a companion disc to Switchblade Sisters. And then I did a Western after that. I did another film for Jack called Bloodbath.
By the way, have you seen Bone Tomahawk yet?
I have seen Bone Tomahawk, yeah.
You're great, man.
Well, thank you.
I just caught that recently. Ellie, do you want to answer the end of that question? Because I think we have to wrap up.
Sure. I want to say first that Sam Cooke is my favorite voice of all time.
There we go.
So there's that. I became interested in acting through, I feel like the most influential thing for me was Saturday Night Live. I watched it with my family, and we all just kind of would sit around and laugh. And then when I was 11 years old, my dad bought a camcorder, and I begged and begged and begged and begged him to use it. And finally he trusted me enough with it to use it. And that's all I wanted to do, was make skits and just be funny and make people laugh, which is super weird because I got into horror mostly, but I would very much love to do some comedy. And I think sitting around and watching Wonder Woman with my grandma, and Splash was a big one, Daryl Hannah was a thing. But yeah, I've always been a class clown. I've always liked to make people laugh, and I don't know, I want to make people feel something. So this last film I did, The Bad Man, does not make people laugh, but it makes people feel something. And just the feedback I've gotten from it, like, man, I cried at the end of that. I couldn't, me and my girlfriend were sitting on the couch and I cried, and I didn't want her to see me crying. And that just makes it like drugs to me, where you could make people have a high emotion, and I can't stop.
All right, we gotta wrap up real quickly. High in the Hog is due for a limited theatrical release in April in Louis, and then it'll start going out. It'll start hitting digital platforms and physical media soon after that. Sid's got something to do at 1. He'll be back at his table at 2 o'clock. And Sid, I'll let you take us out.
What is that?
I'll let you take us out. You want to wrap it up?
Oh, well, okay. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope you had a good time. Hope we touched you in some way. Okay? A little education here and there. Other than that, I fucking love you.
There's something